Moving on to our second topic, which is the Bacillus cereus. That's a little topic that's not that much extensive. As we mentioned earlier, we should be discussing under the headings of disease. The disease it causes is the food poisoning from the enterotoxins. Food poisoning, only it causes food poisoning. Bacillus anthracis was causing anthrax of 3 types. And if we talk about the features, remember one thing, all the bacilli species are aerobic. That's a point you should be remembering. And all the clostridium species, which we would be discussing in the next videos, they are anaerobic. They are also gram positive and they are spore forming, no such difference. Diseases, the food poisoning features are aerobic, gram positive, rods, and spore forming. The habitat is the rice, the grains of rice. This should be remembered because this is an MCQ point of view. And the transmission is via the spores that germinate in the reheated rice. We will all be discussing in detail, and this would be making sense as we proceed. So what happens is that Bacillus cereus causes food poisoning via the rice, the grains of rice that were having the spores, and when we reheat them, they germinate. Bacteria present in the undercooked rice, heat-resistant spores may survive cooking. Heat-resistant spores actually survive cooking. And when the heat-resistant spores have survived cooking, they germinate at room temperature, as a result of which the bacteria produces the toxin. And those toxins are of two types. It produces two enterotoxins. This is actually the pathogenesis. Two enterotoxins are produced. One is having an action similar to cholera toxin, that it is causing ADP ribosylation of the G protein and adenylyl cyclase CAMP pathway increased and fluid accumulation and all that stuff. And the second enterotoxin is having a mechanism of action similar to staphylococcal enterotoxin. If I would be getting into further details of cholera and staphylococcus, this would be off topic. You should be knowing these things. And it is acting as a super antigen. So what have we discussed about Bacillus cereus up till now? It is causing food poisoning. Features have been discussed. It is having a habitat of rice grains. Its transmission is this whole mechanism, as we've discussed, that the spores bacteria is present in the undercooked rice, and heat resistant spores are present and they survive the cooking. And after their survival from the cooking, they germinate at room temperature and they produce two enterotoxins, right? And the person ingests those toxins. Person is not ingesting the spores, person is directly ingesting the toxin, right? So this has been discussed. Once inside the GIT, it causes two types of syndromes. They are food poisoning but of different types. One is the emetic type, in which vomiting is the main symptom, and one is the diarrheal type, in which diarrhea is the main symptom. Emetic type resembles staphylococcal food poisoning. If you review it, you would be knowing it. And one is the diarrheal type, which resembles clostridial gastroenteritis, right? In emetic type, in which vomiting is the main cause, vomiting is the main symptom, there is direct ingestion of toxin, cerulide, abdominal cramps, nausea, vomiting, and it is having a short incubation period. For example, if I ate the rice at 7 o'clock, I would be having the symptoms at particularly 11 o'clock. So a 4-hour incubation period is present there. So it is having a short incubation period, and classically it occurs in the rice dishes. The second syndrome that it is causing is the diarrheal type food poisoning, which is having the watery non-bloody diarrhea. There is no vomiting. Vomiting is only in the emetic type. There is watery non-bloody diarrhea in the diarrheal type and the abdominal cramps, and it is having an incubation period of 18 hours. So it was having an incubation period of 4 hours, which was very short, right? And it is having a incubation period of 18 hours, which is long. This is a differentiation point of the two syndromes actually, mainly. That is why I've put a star on it. Moreover, they are caused by, this is just additional, toxins or heat labile cooking reduces the risk of illness. If we properly cook, we can prevent it. And it occurs from the meat, vegetables, and sauces. Treatment is only symptomatic. For example, we would be preventing vomiting, and the symptomatic treatment is given. There is no specific treatment, only symptomatic treatment. Prevention is that rice should not be kept warm for a longer period. Actually, what happens is that the grains of rice, for example, this is the rice. The grains of rice having spores, right? When they are cooked, they were heat resistant. They survived the cooking. And when they survived the cooking, they in the room temperature, the spores germinate and produce two toxins. One is the having mechanism of action similar to cholera toxin. One is having a mechanism of action similar to staphylococcal enterotoxin, acts as a super antigen, right? And when they go into the GIT, they're causing these two types of syndrome, emetic type, diarrheal type. So what is the main point of prevention in here? It is that the rice should not be kept warm for a longer period, right? And this is it. Hope that explains the bacilli, and hope you have an understanding and it would be beneficial. After a lot of information given, there should be a visualization, and in this particular visualization we discussed this prior, and now we would be just discussing about this. This is a Viking which is having a bowl of rice in its hand. It is actually food. First of all, we will indicate it as food. So it causes, Bacillus cereus causes food poisoning. And inside the food, what is the food? These are the rice. So the reheated rice syndrome. Only these 2 points are important of the food poisoning and the reheated rice syndrome. And this brings to the end of Bacillus cereus.